the top of Chav Gimel and Beis, Vafilu Rabbanon, even according to the Chachamim that reject Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, and they hold that a minchas chote shel kohen is nisrefes kula al gabi mizbeach, like any other mincha of a kohen, kula kolil. Lo pligi alei de Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon el b'minchas chote shel kohen. They disagree with Rabbi Elazar in the case of a minchas chote, because they hold that the Torah requires that it be burnt on the mizbeach like any other mincha of a kohen. The bas hakrovi, the Torah had established a hekesh, as we saw on Amud Aleph, between minchas nedava of a kohen, where there's no kmitza but it's kula kolil, and minchas chote of a kohen. And therefore, we're talking about a mincha that's ru'uya kula likar al gabi mizbeach. Al b'habed in the mincha of Eishes Kohen, afilu rabbanan modu, the shiori mincha have to be burnt in the Beis Hadeshin, because this mincha certainly requires komets. On that we have no suffix, because mimon of shach, as we said, you have to burn the komets on the mizbeach. But if we go basar, the part of the mincha that's owned by the isha, then the shirayim have a din of shirayim, and because of the isur bal taktiru, you are enjoined from burning the shirayim on the mizbeach, and therefore we have to be mashluchit lebeis hadeshin. So that completes the kudshim part of today's discussion, and now we move on to the balance of the Mishnah. Bas Yisrael nesuah lekohen is minchas and nisrefes. Oh, there's one more piece about mincha here. And a kohenes shenisei Yisrael minchas and echel. That's my timer. Why is it that a kohenes who's married to Yisrael, her mincha is not burnt on the mizbeach like a minchas kohen? Because a minchas kohen, we said, is kuli koli, but only because of a male kohen, but not a female kohenes, like a bas kohen. But rather we do komets, and we burn the komets on the mizbeach, and the shirayim is eaten to zichrei kuna. The Yom Krov v'chol minchas kohen kol tia lo seochel. This halacha of kulei kolil is in minchas kohen is referring to a kohen, and it could have said just kolil. What's the extra word kohen? Because the entire parsha is talking about minchas Aaron ubanov, so it could have said kol minchasam. Why does it say minchas kohen? And the answer is kohen v'lo kohenes. Now we go on to other dinim and issues. Kohenes miskaleles, kohen eina miskal. We said that if a kohenes has a relationship with a guy or an eved, she becomes a chalola. Diyom krov v'lo yichal zaro bi'amov. Which means that if she has a relationship or an asuin with a apostle, then there's chilul. Chilul means she becomes chalola. Zara mischal v'hu eino mischalel. So we have this extra pasuk that teaches me that if a kohen has a relationship with a grusha or a chalutza, or a zona, or a chalola, then he himself remains kosher. His zera becomes a zera of chalol. The Mishnah says kohenes mitami l'meisim, and a kohen is not allowed to be mitami by taima. The Omar Kra, the pasuk says in Parshas Emor el hakohen b'nei Aaron is b'nei Aaron v'lo b'nos Aaron. So that isur of lenefesh lo yitama is Kohanim b'nei Aaron. And what's b'nei Aaron? The males and not the females. Kohen ochel b'kodshi kodshim, but not kohenes. Dichsiv, with regard to Korban Mincha, which is Kodesh Kadoshim, in Vayikra Vav, it says, Kol zocher b'vnei Aaron yochlena. And this applies to Chatas and Osham, which are also Kodshi Kodshim. And it says, Zocher b'vnei Aaron yochlena, meaning Dafka Kohanim Zicharim eat from the chatos and the oshim and the mincha, but not kohanos. Uma ben ish lisha. What other differences are there? And we said that in an ish, if he's a mitzorah, he's pora u porem, but if she's a tzaras, ena poremes, v'ena poras. Torah. We learned in a pasuk in Vayikra Yud Gimel with regard to a person who has a neged tzaras, bekarachto or begavachto. It says ish tzaruahu tomehu. Ein li ela ish. The Torah seems to indicate that only a male can become a mitzorah with nigei karachas or gabachas. Isha minayin. How do we know that even a mitzoras of an isha, in the case of an isha, is also tmeah because of karachas and gabachas? Shu omer vatzaru asher bo arekan shnayim. It says in the pasuk, vatzaru asher bo anega begadov you prumim verosho yeh parua. And the Torah now is being marbe an extra mitzorah who became tomei with nigei karachas v'gabachas. Because this parsha is dealing with mitzorah, he didn't have to go ahead and say again vatzarua asher bo. He just could have said begadov you prumim. What's hatzarua asher bo? The pasuk is coming to tell me that even an isha becomes a mitzoras when she has a negav kirachas or gabachas. Im kein matal melomer ish. Now we go back to the beginning of the parsha, where it says ish tzaruahu tomehu. What is the Torah teaching me with the word ish? We now know that even an isha is a mitzoras. And where it says lin shalamata, it's coming to exclude an isha from the din of priya uprima, which is explicated in the pasuk afterwards. Ish porea and ein isha poras. Next, the Mishnah says, "Ish madres beno ben nazir, and isha madres beno ben nazir." Rabbi Yochanan lochi ben nazir. This is halacha Moshe Sinai that a father can be mazir his son, but a mother cannot be makabel naziris for a son. The Mishnah establishes ish megaleach al naziris aviv, the ein ish megalachas al naziris aviv, as we explained earlier. Rabbi Yochanan lochi ben nazir halacha Moshe Sinai that the ben could use the mos tumin when he accepts upon himself naziris after the death of his father, but a daughter who inherits her father cannot use the mos tumin for her nazirus. Vayish mekadesh es bito, ve'eno ish mekadesh es bito, tichsiv es biti nasati lisha zeh. And now we're talking about the father of a nara or a ketana, and the Torah allows him to receive kesef kiddushin on behalf of his daughter. But that's only the father and not the mother, as biti, which refers to the avia nara. Vayish mocher es bito, ve'eno ish mocheres es bito, tichsiv, the Torah says in Parshas Mishpatim, in regard to the mechira of a ketana as an omevriya v'chiyimkar ish as bito. Only the father could sell her as an oma, but not the mother. But ish niskal aru my taima viragmu oso. And this word in Vayikra of Dalid, oso, is superfluous. My oso, why did it say oso? It could have said viragmu. Ilem oso v'lo oso. If we're going to say that a woman doesn't get skila at all, vaksiv, with regard to avodah zarah, in Dvarim Perek Yud Zayit, it says votseisi, votseisa, es haisha hu, o es haisha hi uskaltem avonim amesu. So we see clearly that a woman is niskeles. Ella, but rather, what is the meaning of this pasuk to exclude an isha from a different din? Also, below ksuso, a man is stoned without his garments. Below osa, below ksusa, but a woman who's niskeles is not stoned without her garments, and that's derived from the extra oso that comes to be mamayit and isha. Vayish nitla v'eno isha nitles, my timer, Omar Kra, the pasuk says in Dvarim Perek Chav Aleph, If a person is put to death for a capital crime, his body after the skila is hung up on a tree. Also, but it says also below also. Mishnah says, "Ish nimkar b'gnei ve'ena ish nimkeres b'gnos my taima the omar krov and nimkar b'gnei vaso below b'gnei vaso." Now here I have to take out the next volume of Masechet, which I have right here. And Hadron Alecha Hayanotel, and now we get to the Mishnah at the bottom of Daf Chaf Gimel and Beis, the first Mishnah in the fourth perek, Arusa of Masechet Sotah. Arusa, she was married off, but before Nisur, so she's still living in her father's house. And now the Orus gives her kinui, and she was Soseres. Another case is Shomeres Yavam. Her husband died without children. She's waiting in her father-in-law's house until the brother of her husband will be miyabim her. And the Yavam gave her kinui. She violated the kinui with stira. Lo shosos v'lo notos ksuba. In these two cases that we mentioned here, in Arus and Shomeres Yavam, there's no din of bedikas hashkas sotah. And we're going to see that there's a special miyut in which these cases were excluded from the din of sotah. But on the other hand, lo notos ksuba, because they were guilty of stira, they forfeit their rights to the ksuba, and the Orus is going to divorce her without paying a ksuba. The Yavam will give a chalitza without paying a ksuba, because they're guilty here. She's guilty here, but times two in the two cases of violating the Isur stira after she got the kina. Shenemar asher tista isha tachas isha. So the first isha is without a mapike. The second isha is with a mapike. So the isha is the wife, and isha is the husband. And we're going to be medayik that there's no din of sotah unless it's bi-isha sheyosheves tachas baila. What does it mean, isha tachas isha? A woman in the possession, so to speak, of a husband. It means that there's nisun. Prat la rusa, she's living in her father's house, and Shomeres Yavam, she's living in her father-in-law's house. She's not tachas. Well, in the case of Orus, she's not tachas Orus. In the case of a Yavama, she's not tachas Hayama. And therefore, there's no din of Hashkas Sotah. The Mishnah continues. Other cases of women who are excluded from Sotah, but nevertheless they forfeit the ksuba. Almana lekohen gadol. A kohen gadol is enjoined from marrying an almana, and if he went ahead and he married her, it's already after the suin, or grusha v'chalutza lekohen hedjot. A kohen hedjot is enjoined from marrying a grusha or a chalutza. And then we have mamzeres, and here we're on Daf Chaf Daled, unesina. Right, the nesina were the givonim that underwent kind of a false gerus during the time of Yoshua, and Yoshua made them into avodim lachtov eitzim lishov mayim, and then not allowed to get married to a Jewish girl, and they went ahead the Easter and they married into the Jewishry, where mamzeres is not allowed to marry Yisrael, and that's an Easter lav. Mamzel Yova b'kal Hashem, and they violated. Nesinim is an Easter mitzadik zeras David HaMelech. So these are all cases of illegal, illegitimate marriages. Ubas Yisrael lemamzer v'nosin, or a mamzer v'nosin married a bas Yisrael. That's also an illegitimate marriage. In all these cases, if she got kinui from a husband and then she violated the kinui with a stira shosos below notnos ksuba, there's no diname sotah, because the parsha of Sotah only applies to a legitimate marriage, an isha re'uya l'baila, but not to an isha hasura olav, meaning that even without this nus, she'd be asura olav. In that case, it's not included in the parsha because it says kisista isha, and it means ishto hara'uya le'ishus, and these are cases of eina re'uya le'ishus, but v'lo ksubasa. They don't deserve the ksuba in event that there is gerushin, because even though they've been excluded from hashkas sota, nevertheless they're not excluded from the isur of stira, and therefore through violating the isur stira, they forfeit their rights to ksuba and hifsidu dmei ksubasam. The Mishnah is going to go on to the cases of lo shosos v'lo nolos ksubasa with regard to other women, like, for example, a woman who confesses tmeani, and Adam come and testify that she's tmeah, or a sotah who refuses to drink, and she says, you know what, I'm guiltless, I'm tahora, but I don't want to drink. In all these cases, we assume that there's vadei tumah, and therefore they forfeit their ksuba, but there's no drinking or hashkav of mayim marim, because we don't have any need for bedika. The whole purpose of mayim marim is to be bodek, and in these cases, there's no bedika. Okay, the hemshech of the Mishnah is a case where she refuses to drink from the mayim marim, or Baila Babaderech. And this is where we'll stop for today on the top of Daf of Dal, and I'll wish you a great Shabbos. Thank you so much.